Okay, so I've pinned in my sides like I showed you in the previous video at the 41 centimeter mark. I'm going to go ahead and sew these seams up with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance or a 5/8 seam allowance. Okay, so here we go. Oh, while I'm here, I did not finish my edges because I'm going to put a lining in there, and also I'm going to, so all of the edges are going to be inside. If you want, you could do a zigzag on this edge. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that just to show you what that looks like as well. Okay, if you have a serger at home, you can go ahead and finish your edges with the serger. Just be very careful not to cut off too much of the seam allowance. But I'm going to show you, if you just have a domestic machine that has a zigzag, how to finish your edges so that these don't fray. Even though this is going to be a lined bag and the seams are going to be inside, I just want to make sure that there's no loose threads floating around inside the bag, you know, once you wash it, once you use it, that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to zigzag the edges. Okay, so I am also zigzagging my lining, the edges of my lining. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the edges of my reinforcement squares. Okay, so my outer shell is sewn with the two seams on the side, and now I'm going to do the lining as well. Set the lining 1.5 centimeter. Okay, so this is my sewn outer piece. There's the seam right there at the top. There's a seam right there at the bottom. And right now it just looks like a square with the extended handle down here. And inside is that other part. It's the other handle. It's right here. So there's an opening that goes right here. The handles are here. Here's the handle, and here's the handle. And the seams that I just sewed were here and here. I'm going to go ahead and press these seams open. I've also done the same thing to my lining as well. I'm going to press the seams open, and I'll show you a key step for the next bit of construction, and it involves the iron and pressing. With my lining and with the shell fabric, after I press that seam open, I'm also going to press the whole rest of the seam allowance. The whole rest of the seam allowance all the way up to the handle, to the other side. I'm going to prep that, and you'll see why it makes the next construction part so much easier, just so much easier. Again, its seam allowance is 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 inch, so I'm going to just eyeball it and press that whole seam around the whole side for both lining and outer shell. There we have it. I've pressed in 1.5 centimeter seam allowance throughout the whole finished piece so that it's completely, all the seam allowances are pressed in. It's going to help with the next construction step. Okay. So pressing in the seam allowance for my reinforcement squares, 1.5 centimeters. Be careful, don't burn yourself. Also with my reinforcement squares, I'm going to now fold them diagonally into a triangle, so they look like that. And we'll press those. Now for the triangles, go ahead and stitch along the side to close them up. As close to the edge as possible. So basically, I've pinned the lining, as you can see, wrong sides together, inside the bag, and I'm going to pin it all the way around the whole perimeter of the bag, just like that, so that it's completely lined inside, just like that. But before I do that, I'm going to put the little triangles right here. I'm going to place these triangles on the inside, right there, right there. This is first, and then pin the lining, stitch it all around, and press it, and we're done. I am attaching the little triangles I made to this little corner It's the center little corner to reinforce this center where the two handles meet. You're sewing through a lot of layers, so just be gentle with your machine. If you need to, you can hand sew it too. A little bit more. There we go. Okay, so I got my little triangles in, right there, if you can see that. Okay, now before I go ahead and put back in the lining, I'm going to go ahead into both my lining and my outer shell and clean it up, cut off all these little extra threads and stuff so that they don't get trapped there when I finish making the bag. Okay, so I've pinned my lining inside my outer shell. And I like to start where the triangle is and then work my way out towards the handles, Just pin, pin. And this is why pressing the whole entire bag in the previous step, this makes it super easy to just line up the seams, because I'm just going to be stitching right on top of that. So I go all the way out to the handles. And at the handles, don't worry if they're a little uneven or lopsided, because you're eventually going to be tying these and they're going to be kind of lost in the tie. And personally, I think Azumabukuros look good, a little, what is the word? Folksy? A little handmade. And there you have it. A Japanese Azumabukuro bag. The next thing I'm going to do is, well, first let me show you. As you can see, the lining is completely loose inside the bag. Lining completely loose. Just stuff that in. Next thing I'm going to do is press the seams, press it all along here, press, and then take those two ties and do a knot in them. And then it's done. Share something with you while I'm pressing this. You remember when I paid attention to the stripes that I mentioned? See here? This is a seam. But because I paid attention, the stripes look pretty good. I'm very pleased with how the stripes came. I didn't expect them to match up perfectly like that. But on both seams, they seem to match up fairly nicely. Okay. And that is all pre-thinking while you're cutting and laying out your pattern. Okay, I'm going to press it. Alright, it's nice and pressed. Final thing is to tie the knot. Just a good double knot.